They told you a story, a beautiful story, the kind that makes you feel noble, inspired. Like the world is a fair place, and all you have to do is work hard enough, and the rewards will follow. But then you stepped into the real world, and the story became a lie. Imagine two boys. Let's call them Adam and Ben. They were born in the same year, in the same city. They attended the same school, sat in the same classrooms. They took the same exams, listened to the same lectures. For a while, their lives looked identical, a perfect example of a level playing field. But 10 years later, their paths have diverged completely. One of them, Adam, is now financially free. He travels when he wants, works only on what excites him, and his days are filled with purpose. The other, Ben, is still stuck, trapped in a cubicle, buried under bills, wondering where it all went wrong. He played by the rules. He worked hard. So why did his life become so different? This isn't a new story. You've seen it countless times. Two athletes training under the same coach, eating the same meals, pushing through the same drills. But on game day one, name is always announced. The other is left on the bench. You follow the rules, you play fair, and someone else bends them and still gets rewarded. And in those moments, a question forms in your mind. A question that cuts deeper than any personal failure. What if the problem isn't that I took a wrong step? What if the problem isn't that I lack some hidden trait? What if the problem is the story itself? The story that they sold you about equality? And who benefits from you believing it? This question does not just unsettle you. It cracks the very ground beneath your feet. Because if the promise of equality is not what you thought it was, then the entire framework you use to judge your life, your worth, and your progress has to be rewritten from the ground up. From your very first days in the classroom, the story of equality is poured into you. Your teachers say it. Your politicians repeat it. Your parents whisper it as reassurance when life feels unfair. The words take root early. Everyone is born the same. Everyone has the same chance. All you have to do is work hard and the results will match. It sounds so moral, so uplifting, but it hides a dangerous confusion because there is not just one kind of equality. There is equality before the law, the promise that no matter who you are, the same rules apply in a courtroom. There is equality of dignity, the moral claim that every human life deserves respect. But then there is equality of ability and equality of outcome. And these are very different things. It is here where the illusion creeps in. Society sells you the entire package as if it's the same thing. Opportunity, ability, outcome, all wrapped into one inspiring slogan. But reality never works that way. And this myth, this beautiful, hopeful myth, is exactly what keeps the machine running. It keeps you patient. It keeps you striving, waiting your turn, convinced that your reward is just around the corner. Because if you truly believed that the game was tilted from the start, you just might walk off the field. If you're ready to stop clinging to the illusions society sells you, if you're ready to see the truth that will set you free, then subscribe to this channel. Follow along. Because what comes next will change the way you see yourself and the world forever. Last time we pulled back the curtain on the story of equality, we saw how the promise of a level playing field so often turns out to be a mirage. Today, we will dig deeper into the forgotten truths of the world's great philosophies and religions and discover why some efforts multiply and others disappear. Throughout history, humanity has tried to make sense of this uncomfortable truth, that even with equal beginnings, outcomes diverge so violently. The Bible, for example, tells the parable of the talents. A master gives his servants different amounts of money. One receives 5 talents, another 2, and the third just 1. The first 2 servants invest their money and double it. The third buries his talent and returns it untouched. The master rewards the first 2, but rebukes the third for his inaction. This isn't a story of equal effort leading to equal reward. It's a story about what you do with what you are given. It's about leveraging your gift. Similarly, in Buddhist philosophy, the concept of karma isn't simply about good and bad deeds. It's about cause and effect. Your actions, your intentions, set forces in motion that create your future. It recognizes that every individual carries a unique past, a unique set of circumstances, and a unique potential. The world is not a blank slate. You arrive with what you have built, and from there, your journey continues. And in Islam, the idea of qadr, or divine decree, acknowledges that while human beings have free will, the ultimate outcome is in God's hands. It's a recognition that not all things are within our control. The wind of fate and of chance plays its part. These ancient teachings seem to grasp a truth that modern culture tries to ignore. The inputs we rarely acknowledge are the hidden architecture of a life. Temperament, energy levels, natural curiosity, the speed at which you learn, your physical health. All of these vary from person to person, even before effort enters the picture. And then there is your environment, the family you were born into, the teachers who took you seriously, the network that opened doors, the culture that shaped your ambitions. Imagine two children. Both are given a library card on the same day. On paper, the opportunity looks perfectly equal. But one child grows up in a home where reading is celebrated, conversations are rich, and mentors appear. The other grows up in a home of noise, distraction, and survival. The first child's card is a key to a new world. The second child's card is just a piece of plastic. In practice, the opportunity was not even close. And then there is the brutal question of scale. Some forms of effort simply cannot multiply. A nurse can only care for one patient at a time. A construction worker can only build for as long as his hands hold up. Meanwhile, other efforts scale without limit. A single line of code written once can be used by millions. A piece of capital invested can generate returns while its owner sleeps. A story told on the right platform can reshape the thinking of entire nations. This is the hidden math of inequality. The same number of hours, the same amount of visible effort, can produce outcomes that are not just slightly different, but exponentially different. One person sweats 12 hours a day and never escapes the paycheck. Another makes a leveraged move and watches wealth accumulate even when absent. And this is the paradox. The system tells you that fairness comes from equal effort, but results do not care about effort. Results care about leverage, position, and timing. Those who control networks, resources, or narratives are playing a game that multiplies itself. Those who only supply raw labor are stuck in a game that resets every morning. Sociologists call it cumulative advantage. Economists call it preferential attachment. But you know it as the simple reality that success attracts more success. Once someone gains a foothold through talent, connections, or pure chance, the system tilts further in their favor. More opportunities flow their way. More credibility is granted. More trust is extended. And with every round, the distance grows larger. It's a powerful, unsettling truth, but it's the truth nonetheless. If you've ever felt like you're dragging up a mountain while someone else is walking a gentle slope, it's not because you are lazy. It's because of the geometry of advantage. And to truly understand why, we must go back to the words of the great philosopher Aristotle and the wisdom he offered us more than 2,000 years ago. Don't miss the final part of this journey. Subscribe now, follow along. And if you felt the truth in these words, share your thoughts in the comments below. Your journey of self-discovery is just beginning, and we're here to help you find your own truth. In the previous parts, we ripped the mask off the myth of equality. We saw the illusions society sells us and the hidden truths of cumulative advantage. Today, we will find the way out. Because while the modern world struggles with the idea that people are not the same, feeling dangerous, feeling unfair, more than 2,000 years ago, Aristotle confronted this head-on. Aristotle drew a sharp line between what is written by men and what is written into nature itself. He called the first nomos, the laws and customs we invent. Under nomos, we can declare that all citizens stand equal before the court. We can agree that every human life carries the same dignity. And in that sense, equality is real and necessary. But Aristotle contrasted this with physis, nature. And nature does not distribute gifts evenly. One person is quick, another is slow. One has a memory that can hold libraries, another forgets by tomorrow. One is driven by fire, another is cautious and soft. For Aristotle, this was not a moral failing. It was simply how reality is structured. And because of this, the demand for identical results across all men was not just unrealistic. It was a fundamental misunderstanding of what it means to be human. This is where he introduces a principle that still unsettles us today: distributive justice. Justice, he said, is not giving everyone the same. Justice is giving each what is due in proportion to their contribution, their capacity, and their role. Equal shares for unequal men is not justice. It is distortion. Think of it like this. If two musicians audition for a symphony, and one can barely keep rhythm while the other composes masterpieces, treating them as identical is not fairness. It's blindness. Aristotle believed that order comes from recognizing difference and honoring each according to their nature and their effort. This connects to one of his deepest insights, telos. Everything in nature has a purpose, a function, an end toward which it strives. The telos of a knife is to cut. The telos of an acorn is to grow into an oak. The telos of a human being is to exercise reason and cultivate virtue. But within that, each person has a particular expression, a role, a capacity that is theirs alone. And this is where the idea of flourishing, what Aristotle called eudaimonia, takes shape. To flourish is not to become equal with another man. To flourish is to fulfill your own telos, to develop the virtues that make your nature shine. A cactus flourishes by thriving in the desert. A lotus flourishes by opening on water. To demand that the cactus bloom like the lotus or that the lotus endure the desert is to destroy both. The tragedy is not that men are unequal. The tragedy is that men spend their lives chasing someone else's telos instead of discovering and fulfilling their own. Modern culture tried to cover up these differences with a mask. The mask that says everyone is the same, everyone can do anything, anyone can be anyone. It feels comforting. But beneath the surface, it is a trap. Because if we all started equal, then any gap must mean someone cheated, or the system is corrupted, or worst of all, that you yourself are broken. This moralization of sameness does something dangerous. It teaches us that difference equals injustice, that excellence is an insult rather than an inspiration. And in doing so, we rob ourselves of the chance to grow. The belief that all people are identical was supposed to uplift us. Instead, it shackles us, because the moment you mistake sameness for morality, you will never allow yourself to see what is real. That justice is not sameness. Justice is proportion. Fulfillment is not matching someone else. Fulfillment is alignment with your own telos. The way out begins by ripping off the mask. We need to redefine what equality actually means. There are two forms that are non-negotiable: equality of dignity and equality before the law. Beyond that, equality does not stretch. Men are not equal in talent. They are not equal in temperament, in energy, in imagination. And the goal is not to erase these differences, but to recognize them as the terrain of life. The real tragedy is wasting years pretending we are not different. Aristotle gives us a map forward. To live well is to discover your telos. To fulfill it, you must cultivate arete, virtue, excellence, the stable qualities that turn raw potential into stable power. And finally, you must build leverage to scale this telos. Because without leverage, even the strongest telos remains trapped inside your own body. This is the telos arete leverage framework. Stop measuring your worth by the hours you grind. Start measuring by how aligned your telos is, how disciplined your arete is, and how wisely you build leverage that scales. Stop chasing equality with your neighbor. Start negotiating for proportion. Demand to be valued, not because you exist, but because of the weight you bring, the responsibilities you carry, the outcomes you create. Here is the hard truth. You will never be equal to the man beside you, but you don't have to be. Your task is not to become him. Your task is to become the fullest version of yourself and to demand the returns that align with that. Do not settle for the cheap promise of sameness. Build the hard reality of proportion. That is where dignity, freedom, and flourishing actually live. So I leave you with a challenge. Will you keep demanding sameness? Or will you claim proportion? Will you spend your years chasing another person's telos? Or will you build the leverage and discipline to scale your own?